In my archiving data series, which if I can remember, I'll at least link the first video because I believe from the first video you can get to the other two. I don't share examples of that, and it's mainly because of the third point, which is if you share aggregate methods, if let's say that applies, it opens the door to what I call research stupidity, which is somebody who's a researcher goes and copies things without understanding what they're doing. And archiving data in general takes thought because it differs by environments, and it's for many reasons. The most common one is some environments they have no limit, right? They're not going to archive data. Another one is depends on the data itself. Would you archive Bitcoin data? Maybe you would. I don't archive Bitcoin data, but maybe you would. I mean, it's not big enough yet. At least I don't think it is. It's not big enough yet to where it needs to be archived. But then again, what about the clients you work with or the users? They may not find some data meaningful, or sometimes they find data meaningful that you question. And each environment is going to have its design limitations. And what I mean by that is, let's say that your preferred favorite approach to archiving data is TSQL, but you find out in the environment you can't use TSQL in the manner that you want. You just have to learn what's going to be allowed in that environment. Let me tell you, no two clients are alike in what's allowed in terms of security practices, which is a good thing because what it means is people are thinking about their security practices. So archiving data is going to take a lot of thought. It's going to take a lot of thought as to what's going to provide meaning to you and your clients. It depends on if you're using it or if your clients are using it. For instance, metrics is a great example where DBAs typically use metrics themselves, right? But when it comes to, let's say, stock data, we're doing that for clients. So we really have to understand what our clients are doing with the data. One of my favorite things to do is to go to conferences of my end user. So when I was working in the mortgage-backed security industry and saving data and doing data analysis on that as well as ETL, I actually went to a lot of housing conferences just to get a kind of a feel for what people were looking at. Because if I don't know what my user wants, then I'm going to be terrible at what I'm doing, right? So my favorite example of this, why archiving data takes thought, is the cryptocurrency market cap, which is a popular website. It just trips me out. They organize all the cryptocurrencies by the market cap. So of course I'm a math guy, and I'm like, guys, the market cap is just the price multiplied by the supply. Why don't you organize it by the price? Because that's really what matters, right? Because the supply for some of them, as many of you know, I mean, they're no different than fiat currencies. They can, have increases or decreases. So the price is what's more important. Oh no. So in other words, it's derived, right? So it's kind of like the 200 simple moving average, which is a derived measure. But what is it derived off of? The price. And it's the price that matters. So from my perspective, now watch how this differs, it's more intuitive to archive the price and supply, right? As that will save space, provided that the price is not less than 1, right? Like a decimal value, or is expected to be above 1. However, it doesn't matter, and it goes back to this site, this whole cryptocurrency market cap. If people think that it's so important what the market cap is, even though again mathematically it's the price, but whatever, that's what the client wants to see. It's the same thing. I would normally, if I'm going over 10 years, probably not save the 200 simple moving average, right? Because it's a derived measure. However, what happens if the person is still doing aggregates with the 200 simple moving average for the last 40 years? Well, it's going to be really expensive on the reads to do that on the fly. So it makes a lot more sense to go ahead and archive that 200 simple moving average, even if it's a derived measure, right? So that's where it goes back to, you have to know what your clients want, and there's no way I can answer that. If you're like, hey, what are my orders? I don't know what your orders are, because you have to know what your clients want. You have to know what your clients need. So the question really is what aggregates do your clients find meaningful? What aggregates do you find meaningful? And then you're going to build your archiving structure around that. And then, of course, it's going to still have to be within those design limitations, right? Still has to be within, the TSQL, PowerShell, .NET, whatever you're going to use. And even if, from my perspective, even if you don't see value in something, is it really worth debating someone on the value if it's obvious they believe it's valuable? This is the whole coin market cap thing. Again, it's just I just don't get the fascination, but I'm not going to debate it. It's like, whatever, if people find that fascinating, it's the price that's important. But we live in the world of I think there's, at least in the United States, there's a lot of people who don't understand math, and for me, it's like, it's not worth debating. So only you can answer that, whether you want to have that debate or not. So when it comes to archiving data, you have to be familiar with what your end user needs, and in the case of like metrics, what you need.